You can't be what you can't see, fact or myth. Today I'm going to be talking about what this phrase actually means, what the current gender balance landscape is in the UK for the tech industry right now, why does this even matter, and what you can do about it. Before I start, I want to introduce myself. My name is Tiffany Dawson. I have a confession to make. I'm not a software engineer. I'm actually a mechanical engineer, and I've worked in the construction industry for about 8 years. So during that time, I became very passionate about helping women in STEM, so STEM being science, technology, engineering, and maths, to overcome their career advancement barriers. Because of this, I founded my own company where I coach and inspire women in STEM to unleash themselves from career advancement blockers. And hopefully by the end of today's talk, you'll also share my vision on achieving gender equality in STEM. Okay, you can't be what you can't see. You may or may not have heard this phrase before. This phrase has become quite popular recently in explaining the gender diversity issues we face in STEM. So what this actually means is that young females working in or studying STEM subjects can never become leaders because they don't have females to look up to. So if any of you are women or have females in your life, you might be feeling a little bit outraged right now. How can a phrase this popular in our day and age be telling females that they can never become leaders? It's outrageous. Before I go on, I want to do a really technologically advanced audience poll. Can I please get everybody to stand up? I actually thought everyone would already be standing up, so this next slide says to put your hands down, but we'll tell you to sit down instead. Can you please sit down if you do not identify as being female? Okay. And then please sit down if you do not work in tech. So I would have to sit down here. Okay, thank you. You can all sit down now. So this kind of gender balance ratio is probably pretty common in the tech industry. Would you agree? Yeah. The figures say that only 16.8% of the UK tech sector workers are women, and only 12.5% of UK programmers and software developers are women. In fact, we would need to hire an additional 1 million women into the UK tech sector today if we were to reach gender parity. And if you like to read gender pay gap reports like I do, you'll see that in most tech companies, the higher the pay quartile you get, the lower the percentage of women. So the higher up into leadership, the lower the percentage of women. Now, I would love to talk to you about why this is the case, but I don't have time in my 10-minute talk. If you're interested, please come and speak to me afterwards. But what I do want to talk about is why this actually matters. Why does it matter to you? So I've got a few reasons up here. There's a massive skills shortage in the tech industry. And those of you who work in recruitment for tech or are involved in recruiting new candidates for your current company will know that there are so many tech jobs out there that we can't fill. The second point I have is that diversity of thought brings about better problem solving. Now, I have experienced this firsthand. The first engineering company I worked for in Australia had a leadership team. I'm going to say it, all 8 of them were around 40 to 50 and Caucasian males, and they all went to private schools in Melbourne, Australia, and they grew up all pretty much the same way. The second engineering company I worked for had a leadership team of all different types. Males, females, people with different education backgrounds, people who didn't speak English as their first language. And I can tell you now that that second company won a lot more innovation awards than the first. Would it surprise you if I said that females hold the most buying power in the UK? Maybe not. In fact, they are so influential that they make the decision to or influence the purchase of 92% of holidays, 65% of cars, 93% of food, 91% of homes, and 61% of computers. Now, if your team doesn't have a gender-balanced workforce, you might be opening yourself up to blind spots for figuring out what the new trends or new services might be coming up. And also you might lack the inability to create a product that a woman would like to use. The fourth one is personal. All staff. So research shows that all staff, including males, are more engaged at work when you reach closer to gender parity in your teams. So we all know that an engaged worker is a happy worker, someone who's more fulfilled and wants to do well at their work. And finally, because of all these reasons above, when you have more females in your leadership team, you experience increased revenue. So now that you know all these benefits, what can you as an individual do about it? A lot of companies have great schemes such as parental leave, things for programs for women coming back from maternity leave, flexible working, all that kind of stuff. But you as an individual, what can you do? So men, what can you do for your women in tech? The first thing is to educate yourself. Find out what are the challenges that your women in tech are facing. For example, yesterday I got an email from Dave asking me for advice on how to make this event more welcoming for everyone. And the second thing is to back your women up. So the next time you're in a team meeting and someone speaks over your female colleague, you can say something as simple as, "Hey Phil, I'm really interested to hear what Lily had to say. Can we hear your idea afterwards?" Women, what can you do for other women in tech? What you can do is to join a Women in Tech group. So I know, for example, that SR2 runs Women Rock. If you don't know what that is, please go and speak to Nath. I'm sure he'll be happy to speak to you about it. There you can support other women and also you can receive support yourself. The second thing you can do is to reach out to a more junior woman in tech and mentor them. I'm sure that when you were younger, you would have wished that someone did the same for you. And finally, the most important thing, what can women in tech do for themselves? The most important thing they can do is to invest in themselves. This is very important, not only to invest in your tech skills, but also skills such as learning how to self-promote, learning how to quieten your inner critic, learning to speak to a big audience, and things like how to set great career goals and how you're going to action them. If you feel stuck with any of that stuff, come and speak to me or anyone else who's out there who is willing to help women in STEM. My email address is there for anyone who wants to contact me or if you've got colleagues who need a bit of help. Finally, I'm going to answer my own question. Is this phrase a fact or myth? Let me give you an example. So, the first astronaut, did they have someone to follow? Did they see an astronaut before them? No, they didn't. So I would probably say this is a myth, but if I could change the phrase, I would add that you can't be what you can't see in your own imagination. So if you can't see, find someone who will help you to.